I'm sure people hear your accent and they figure that's not an Italian accent. It sounds more French, but you're from Belgium, correct?
Yeah, I'm a blend.
A blend.
I'm a blend between my mother, who is Belgium from Brussels, and my father, who is from Italy, here from this area where I have the vineyards. So
Okay.
I'm a blend.
All right. Well, that's, your blends are beautiful things. So we like that. So tell me about, now you studied viticulture in France.
Yes, exactly.
Tell me about that.
So I first have a degree of 3 years of marketing in Belgium and in Holland, marketing and management. And then I did 1 year of marketing in France about wine. So I wanted to do a master of marketing links to the wine. And then I had the passion of the wine, travel through vineyards, meeting producer who give me the passion of this work and this what I'm doing now. So I decided to study viticulture and enology because my father has vineyards in Italy. Near his village, in this village,
Okay.
in his village, he said, why you don't continue in the wine sector? And I said, Papa, I can do it, but I want to learn viticulture and enology. But I spoke better French than Italian, so I stayed in France.
Okay.
Because I wanted to succeed in the study. So I say maybe chemical was easier for me in French language than in Italian. So I stay in France and I study in Burgundy, viticulture and enology in a school for adults. And I arrived in Italy after my studies in 2005.
Right.
So I begin to vinificate our grapes variety from our vineyards in 2005. Before, the vineyards were cultivated and the grapes were sold.
Right.
Now it's my 16th harvest that I take care for the winery and for my winery family.
Congratulations. Can you tell me a little bit more about your father?
Yes, but if I speak about my father, I will cry. He was 40 when he received an important honorifice, Cavalier. And for him, who left Italy when he was 20 and he received this honorifice, he was 40. For him, links him to Italy again, which really strongly. And so he decided to rebuild the vineyards of the family. And he had the help of the brother and the sister here in Italy, but he still worked in Belgium. Then I studied viticulture and enology, and I started in 2005. In 2005, to vinificate our first grapes.
Okay, so your father was just growing grapes. He wasn't producing wine. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
He just sell it in his restaurants, but not us, the one of other Italian producers.
All
so
right.
he really know a wine like passion person and one who sell wine, and he really know well consumers.
Okay. Now, let me ask you one more question before we talk about the wines. But since you said you're from Belgium and then you had trouble with the language, and I mean, there's so many stories of people that go into the wine business in Italy or in France or really anywhere. And if they're not from that area, sometimes it's difficult for them to be accepted. I mean, your father was there, so maybe it was different. But was there a problem when you moved in 2005? Did people say, well, this is great, or did it take years for people to come around and look at your wine?
I understand. Well, there were some difficulties because my family managed the winery, and well, it was not a winery, it was an estate only on vineyards, but they managed it. So when I arrived, of course, they say, oh, I hope they will go back in Belgium. So they helped me, but they also think maybe she left. So, but I study. So the fact that I was competent in my world
Okay.
helped me to stay, because I had, and I still have, the idea of what I want to do, but I know how to do it. And I have also a father, even if we have fight all the time, it's still my father, and I'm the person who make his interest. So I try to take care of the family business as a good mother for the company.
Okay.
And so, of course, I grew up because I start only with the studies, few experience in Chapoutier, au Domaine La Jeunesse, but I mean a lot of experience I did in my own winery. Thank my father and I grow slowly up. But yes, I had also problems a bit because I'm not from, I'm half Belgian, I'm a woman, I was young. So, but also here in Italy, a lot of young men and women has problem in any kind of work. I have the chance that I work in my family, with my family, so I have a good environment.
Okay. Well, I know what you're talking about. I visited that area several times. We've met, and that a lot of other producers. So there's a lot of strong personalities in Campania. I think I'll put it that way and play it safe. But when you started in 2005, what was your production like compared to today? How many wines did you make? How many bottles? And then what total are you at today?
I think in 50 years, I did 3 times the production as the beginning.
Okay.
But I have to do another third at least. Well, we are 400 thousand bottles.
Okay.
Between Fiano di Avellino, Greco di Tufo, Coda di Volpe, Irpinia Coda di Volpe, Irpinia Falanghina, and then the red Taurasi Reserve, Irpinia Liani Codoc, a bit of rosé, spumante.
Okay.
We have several labels because we have several autochthon grape variety. We have 4 autochthon white grape variety, and I vinificate 100% each of them. And then I have also the selection of this white grape variety. And then I have the red with 2 blend, most smooth, and 300%.
Okay. Let me put up a map here of Irpinia. We'll start to talk about your area and about the wines. And I know the people that are watching today right now, I'm sure are very familiar with Irpinia, but for people that watch this later on YouTube, tell us, Irpinia is the province of Avellino, correct?
Si, we are in province of Avellino. Yes, it's the green part of Campania. It's in the mountain. We call it the little Switzerland of Campania.
And I've had local journalists tell me there that because there's so much rain, the rainfall is much higher than it is in many other regions of Italy, that they think it's a better region or a better area for white wines than red. And obviously Taurasi is great, but what are your thoughts on that?
Allora, we have really a vocated area. So we are we are in the mountain. For my part, we are between 300 and 500 meter altitude, and the climate is really good. So we're in South Italy, we have good sun, so enough alcohol. Then we have good acidity of the grape. Mm-hmm. We have minerality of the soil thanks to the clay and the chalky soil, who give wine more body, who has a longer aging, who means the wine may keep the youngness longer thanks to this body. And we have also a volcanic soil who give a long finishing month. We are in the mountains, so we have a cold night and warm days. And this change of temperature gives to the skin a lot of aromas. They developed a lot of aromas in the skin during the maturation on September, October. So this is also important. And you said about the water, because we are a vocated area in the DOCG and DOC area in France, AOC, denomination, appellation, you may not add water. So the water comes from the rain, from the mountains, from the snow, from the rivers. We cannot add water. So we have not fixed line to add water. They come naturally from the soil. So our area has good water at the normally winter and spring, and then often after warm summer, because we are in South Italy, we have water at the beginning of September to continue the maturation of the grapes. Right. So normally we have a good weather. We have also wind. So it's also really important, the water and the wind. So we have sun and wind, so we have less problem of fungus, mildew, oidium. We have less problem of cryptogamic attack thanks to less humidity, thanks to the wind and the sun in our area. It's really aerate. Okay. You mentioned about not being able to add water. I mean, what about, are there exceptions when there's a really bad drought year? Can you add anything? Yes, but yes, you can add water in emergency. So it's or in our area is the region Campania who said it. In some area it's also the consortia, it depends. In our area is the region Campania. You can add it, but you have to pass one by one with the tractor, stop and add the water. So we do with the little one, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of money. We don't want to have fixed line. Why? Because the roots of the vine has to go deep in the soil to take all the elements they need, and those elements will characterize the grapes and then the wine. So the identity comes from already from the water that we don't add, and the roots has to go down deep in the soil to take their elements. And a second thing is that if the roots are down deep in the soil, they are less sensitive to dryness and to frost. So it's also important for their own life.
Excellent. Okay. Let's start talking about the white wines. We'll start here. Yeah. Your Falanghina called Lila. And if you can tell us about how much Falanghina you make, there you are. And lovely. And who, tell me first of all, who is Lila?
It's a name that we like. In my family, I have 2 sons, I have an husband, I have a father, I have too much men. So we wanted a nice name for wine. So my first baby was my wines. And after now I have 2 sons, one 10 years and one 8 years. Lila was a nice name that we like. Okay. So it's a wine of 2019, the last harvest. This is a grape variety, Ume-H. I think because we are now planting since 7 years in Irpinia, but he has a long life, has a good fiano. He has the aromaticity of Falanghina with a good minerality of our Irpinia soils. And I do only stainless steel vat. There is no aging for this. I have also a selection, but this one is the one more crispy, more easy to drink, aromatic, fresh nose, and fresh mouth.
Yes. Well, I have a glass here of the 2018, as a matter of fact, and this is much better than most examples I have of Falanghina because it's got so much complexity to it. There's these nice flavors and aromas of golden apple and a little bit of spice like saffron and things like that. And of course, as is typical with Falanghina, it's very, very good acidity. 2018, exactly. 2018, 19, I know we're both very, very good vintages. You talk about the difference in those 2 vintages for Falanghina, 2018 versus 2019?
There are 2 good years. There are 2 really good years. 2019 is a really good year for white because they are crispy, but also 2018 was a good year, warm. We have full wines with a long finish. Falanghina, those are young. Even 2008 are young, and for the first year is a wine young who keep freshness and acidity and aromaticity. Then it will evolve, but keep really for a long time this youngness. Particularity of Falanghina, so we begin to plant it, is the last white I planted in my vineyards 7 years ago.
Okay.
And it's a wine, the grape variety, who mature the last one with Aglianico. So we harvest the end of October.
That's very late for white grape, yes. Yes.
Yes, it's later than Fiano, Coda di Volpe and Greco. Okay. Falanghina in other area of Campania, we harvest 1 month before. In Irpinia, it's 1 month later because we are higher because of the soil.
Right.
It needs times. It needs much more times, but we have a really good product because we have the aromaticity of the Falanghina, but with the complexity of the soil, you have a Falanghina who have a full body.
And what I like about the wine is, as I said, it's not the typical Falanghina in the sense that it's a very simple wine and you drink it right away. I mentioned my notes, you could drink this for at least another 3, 4, 5 years. And the wine has beautiful texture to it and a lot of richness to it that you don't find in a typical Falanghina. So, complemente, exactly. Lovely wine. How many bottles?
Since 2008, I make a selection who make aging in wood because it has the structure to manage spicy aging.
Okay. How many bottles of this, Lila, do you produce a year?
30,000 bottles.
Okay. Let's move on to the next white, the Coda di Volpe, which you have named Bianco di Bellona.
Yes.
Bellona.
Bellona.
Bellona, okay.
So, Bellona is la dea della guerra. But Bellona is also a village in Caserta where there are a lot of pizzeria and producer of mozzarella. And Bellona, this white is a white who really match with mozzarella di bufala, with fresh cheese, ricotta, with vegetables,
Perfect.
with also sushi, fish who has not too much aromaticity. This one is more full, is the one who has less acidity. So we have 4 Tocton grape varieties. Coda di Volpe, with the foxtail.
Okay.
Why is the name of this grape variety? It's because it has a long shape and an orange color. So the harvest on October, we have this grape, you can recognize it. And normally, Coda di Volpe is used in blend to go down the acidity of the Fiano, of the Greco. I do 100%. I create this wine. The idea was the idea of my father. He clearly planned Coda di Volpe to do a white wine 100% because this one is less acid, more full in mouth, and with a slight floral aromas and white peach.
Okay. And you produce this in the same manner that you do the Falanghina, right? With just the steel aging, correct?
Yes, solo on only stainless steel vat. Fermentation, we crush immediately. We don't make any fermentation with the skin. So we go only with the juice in fermentation. Then we fermentate at lower temperature. Then after we keep the yeast dead and we remix the yeast to give more fullness, but all it's in stainless steel vat, no wood aging.
Well, I've tasted the wine previously and along with a few other producers, and it's nice to see this because I know it was sort of forgotten variety for a long time, and maybe a little bit was blended into Greco or Fiano, but on its own, it's a lovely wine, like you said, pairing with mozzarella and sushi and things like that. So it's excellent. And how long do you think a wine like that can age?
The Coda di Volpe. Alors, I tried 2010 was fantastic.
Really?
I couldn't be, yes, because until now, I taste white until was 7 years, Coda di Volpe, and I enjoy it. Last 2 weeks, I had Coda di Volpe 2010 of my production, and I really enjoy it. So I tell to our seller, John, Michael, Paolo, and Williams that really I appreciate you take your time to be here. Grazie. And Coda di Volpe, he may age at least 10 years on the freshness.
That's great. That's great. I don't get a chance to try older Coda di Volpe like that, but I'll have to look for that the next time I'm in Campania. So, or maybe you can find some here in Chicago, but that's great. So let's move on to Greco. John says he loves the older white. So let's move on to the Greco di Tufo Nestor.
Sí.
So this is my favorite white of Irpinia, and maybe the Greco di Tufo, and maybe one of my favorite whites in all of Italy. So obviously, tell us the history of that, because Greco obviously is named for the Greeks, and then Tufo is an actual town. It's one of the few towns where this wine can be produced, and it refers to the tufaceous soil, which is a clay that you can break up very easily. So tell us about Greco di Tufo, about its characteristics, about its aromas and flavors, and your history with it.
Sì, alors Greco di Tufo is only 8 villages who may do Greco di Tufo, but the production is important because all the villages are planted. So we have an important production on 8 villages. Fiano is 23 villages, so there are more, but there are more villages.
Much larger area, right?
Yeah. Greco, it's begin at 300-meter altitude, but until 700-meter altitude. So it's quite hard. I even have a vineyard at 736-meter altitude. So we have also vineyards that are really steep on slope, who see the wind and the sun all the day. And we have an important concentration. The grapes are little. We have not a big production. The grape is little. Falanghina has a big bunch. There are more production. Greco is a little bunches. Important acidity, but also minerality of the soil, a lot of tufo. Who give minerality, and sometimes you even smell in the wines, especially a bit more down in the city of Tufo. When you are upper and in quite mountain, you have more aromaticity, but sometimes you even feel the Tufo, which is a bit strange. But
you have vineyards in Montefusco, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's 600-meter altitude and Santa Paolina.
Okay. I'm going to put up a picture of Montefusco that I took some years ago, and you get an idea of the elevation.
Yes, here, just in front of you, you have our vineyards there.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
You are around 600-meter altitude until 700-meter altitude. Good exposition. Here is one of the best area for Greco. Irpinia is that. So little villages on the top of the hill, and all around you have the vineyards, you have trees, olive trees, nuts and chestnuts,
okay.
And vineyards. So it's really green, it's really nice. In evening, it's even really romantic.
Okay, that sounds great. Since you said this is one of your vineyards, what are these all south facing? Are they southwest, these vineyards
yes.
here?
Just in the middle of the photo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old are these vines?
40.
40 years or 14?
Yeah, 40.
14, okay.
Sí.
And I think one of the things we need to remember about Greco di Tufo is its aging potential. I mean, I've had 30-year-old examples of Greco di Tufo that have great freshness to them. They're terrific wines. Talk a little bit about that.
It's the more complex. They say that is the more complex because it has fruitiness, acidity, and quite structure. And why we spoke about structure for the Greco is because the Greco has a skin with a lot of tannin, flavoid, or it's the tannin of the white. And those tannin, we have to pay attention to not extract them during the fermentation, during the press, because otherwise they are tannin really sensitive to oxygen. And when you age the wine, then the wine can be orange juice and change color. You have a burst of color in the aging. So often in the old times, they extract also the tannin of the skin of the Greco. And so you had also a structure because then you drink the white cooler. And so you have more astringent of the tannin of the white. So it looks like the red of the white because of that. Fiano has less tannins, it's more aromatic. Falanghina also. Coda di Volpe has a bit of tannins. You have to pay attention also with Coda di Volpe.
You're probably the third or fourth producer from Irpinia that has told me that same thing about Greco is sort of the red of the white wines in Irpinia. So that's a neat comparison. And this is harvested after Fiano, correct?
Yes, Fiano often is the first to be harvested because he has a really thin skin. And so it matures really earlier. He has also a little bunch, Fiano.
Okay. I think the thing that surprised me was when I first started traveling there and I would go to tastings that the consortium would put on, they would always taste the Fiano first and then the Greco. And I think in America, we probably would do it the other way because Fiano tends to be, we'll get to that in a second, is a lusher, riper wine and more forward. And yet it's always in Irpinia, Greco is served second. And I think it's because of the structure, correct?
Yes, correct. Correct, because Fiano is more thin, more elegant. So sometimes also more on the floral aromas, and Greco is more expressive on exotic aroma. So also for the aromaticity, we start with the elegance and the light aromaticity of the Fiano, and then we pass to the Greco, who often is more structured and more aromatic on exotic aromas, also for the aromaticity.
Well, let's move right into the Fiano. This is the Refiano, Fiano di Avellino. You're smiling, you love this wine, huh?
Yeah, Fiano is a great variety. We may age along. We do the Spumante, a part is made of Fiano, the Passito, and then we have Refiano that you present now with only 10 less still vat. And then we have a selection who make an aging in wood. Fiano is really a nice, a great variety, thin, elegant, really good.
And I read that you have vineyards in 3 different communes. One is Lapio, one is Candida, and one is Montefredine, which if you look at the producers that make Fiano from there, that's like the Grand Cru of the vineyards for Fiano. So you have some great vineyards. How old are the vineyards you work with?
In between 20 and 40.
Okay.
Depends. Each one is younger, the other, but this is.
And the elevation, is it a little bit lower than Greco?
Yes, we are between 400, 500 meter altitude. Candida is 400 meter altitude. Lapio, this is between 400 and 500 meter altitude.
Okay. And earlier you talked about the harvest. You have harvested Fiano yet this year, or it's next week? Or
yes, we had it, and Lapio was the first one, was the most ready, was also an exposition full salt. So a really warm year, not only because of the summer, also because of the winter, which was really warm. In February, I have a lot of person who came during the weekend because of a good weather. so less warm or less water. And the plant start, we was also afraid to the frost in the spring because the plants wake up before, the vines wake up a bit before.
Okay.
And then we have a warm setup.
Okay. Both this Refiano Piano and the Nestor Greco, these are both the classic white wine vinification, right? Only steel?
Yes, only stainless steel vat. So this is a line, really easy. They are all clean, aromatic, long finish, good sapidity, but a long finishing month. And you easily want a second glass. Why? Because they are well balanced between acidity, alcohol, minerality of the soil, structure. I like to speak about structure for the red, but I mean, il est plein, we say in French. They are full.
Okay.
They are really well balanced, and you easily want a second glass. It's not fat. We are in South Italy, but we are in the mountains, so they are wine. You easily want a second glass. They are wine for gastronomy, because you have an intensity of salivation in your mouth. When you drink, you salivate, and you want to eat with. So he gives intensity for the salivation, for eating, and he has a long finish to match with the food. Well, I do the example of the beer. The beer is too bitter. Is not persistent. Here with the wine and with this in Irpinia, we have a long finish who can match and accompany the food.
That's an excellent explanation. I appreciate that, because it's always, these are my favorite white wines of Italy, and I am a little prejudiced, but I think they're the best. I think there's more great white wine produced in Irpinia than almost anywhere else. I mean, maybe there's a few spots in Friuli and Alto Adige that that can compare, but these are superb whites, and I think the general public just they don't have the awareness of it, and there's several reasons for that. We won't bother with that now, but we'll move on to, you also make a Riserva example of Greco di Tufo and Fiano di Avellino. I don't have the bottles in front of me, but you have the Grancare, Greco di Tufo Riserva, and the Brancato, Fiano di Avellino. Tell us about that. What's different about those wines?
Those wine were born because during the year, the wine age, but I also age the experience. And so I wanted ones that I take care much more in the winery, and that I know that with this quality, and if you drink those wine, only stainless steel vat, you understand, and it has the potential to age and to also to have another kind, to exist in another way. So I age it in fermentation. I did fermentation and aging in wood for a part of the wine, because I prepare wine and I come on the market already more full because of the aging in barrels, spicy, aging in my winery. And so it's a wine for other matches, but already aged. It's a wine who go well with cheese, with mushroom, with truffle, with onions, all pasta of meat who has those ingredients, and also spicy and fish, where with sauce more spicy and structured fish. Their wine more important.
Bacala.
Un buon baccalà e un brancato.
È vero.
Well, I was a bit frustrated because I had to come immediately on the market, because the clients want the wine after harvest. So they want the new one, the more fresher one, the more crispy. And I can understand it. I'm okay. I don't say that one is better than another. They're both good. But sometimes you want something different. You're not, every time you don't want just a wine or are really tendu, we say, really straight on. Sometimes you want something more relaxed, more full, more creamy. So that's why I create the selection. And I think we can do it like the Burgundy people do with Chardonnay. That's my opinion.
Hey, that's good. If the Burgundians can do it, you can do it as well. That's great. Do you produce these Reserva Greco and Fiano every year?
For the moment, we did. For the moment, we did. We don't do it for the Aglianico, but
Okay.
for the Fiano, it's a good question. And the Greco, for the moment, we did. Yeah, every year.
And these two wines, these Reserva, are these sea oak, right? They're fermented partially in barrique, and then they're also aged in barrique later on?
30% go in barrels, not all the wine.
Right. Would you say that these Reserva examples, do they age as long as the classic Greco and Fiano, or does it depend on the vintage?
They may age. The one who aged the most is Fiano.
Okay.
We spoke about 20 years. It will evolve, of course. I already aged it, so when I come on the market, I have something more spicy, more on the honey, but it will evolve on these aromas, fruit, dry fruit, honey, hydrocarbure. So how do you say hydrocarbure in English?
Okay, it's goose.
Hydrocarbure, benzina aromas, like the Riesling.
Oh, Ranzino, yeah, like a sea bass.
Yeah,
okay.
Like the Riesling. So it will evolve on dry nuts, honey, and this gasolina aromas. With good aromas.
Petrol, yeah. Okay. Let's move to the most important red, the Taurasi.
Petrol. Thank you, Paolo.
Yes. Grazie, Paolo.
Paolo, trust us.
Opera mia.
Opera mia. So before speaking about Opera mia, I would like to thank you, Paolo, because he trusts us when I was nobody. I mean, I was just a girl who come and produce my wine, following the patrimoine of my father and my family, to respect them. And he trusts us, and it's maybe 10 years now that he are with us. He knows us, and he follow the winery. So thank you. And John also. He trusts us and follow us, and I would like to thank both of us, because they sell our wine since a lot of time. And thank you very much for
they're two very good friends of mine in Chicago. They're two of my best friends, and they've been very helpful to me in my career as well. So appreciate that.
Exactly. And it's Michele who come to visit us every year.
Okay.
In New York, I have another importer, Romano Brand, but in Chicago, I have Paolo, and I hope to take a flight to come next year to see you, Paolo, because now I'm flying, because I was afraid to fly. So it was 20 years that I took fly only in Europe, but now I went to Japan in 2020 on January, just near the COVID, before the COVID. And I came, and I can to see you next year, because now I'm not afraid anymore to fly too far away.
Good. Well, I'm assuming by next year that we'll all be able to fly. You can fly to the United States and we can fly to Italy, but hopefully it's before that. So anyway, that's great. Yeah, it was always a pleasure to see you. Let's talk about Taurasi.
Si, Opera mia. So we have our grape variety with Aglianico. So already the name Aglianico is hard to pronounce. I want to say something about Aglianico. It's not rustic. It's really thin and really elegant. And that I understand immediately when I arrived in 2005, but even before, because I work in Chapoutier, in the Syrah area, in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, in the Grenache area, also with Tanat, Mourvèdre, and other grapes varieties, Syrah. And I understand that Aglianico was thin and elegant, but Aglianico has several secrets. So the Taurasi is best denomination. It's a DOCG, the one of South Italy, the first one of South Italy.
Right.
This is one of the first in Italy, because it was in '93 that Taurasi became a DOCG. Before this area, we sell the grapes abroad, especially in the phylloxera area. We were the producer of grape for Bordeaux area, for Piemonte area. So during the phylloxera production. Then there were the two world wars, and then the area, the countryside, were left by the people because we had the world war. And then we begin again to take care of the vineyard. There are little production in Irpinia. We are late because we have less tourism also.
Right.
So I have something that I have to thank God for that. I opened my winery since I'm the beginning on Saturday and Sunday, and I have a lot of persons who come during the weekend, and a lot of persons who come from the NATO and the Navy base in Naples. And so I'm doing tourism in my winery, but I'm alone to do that in my area. But I do it, and I have a lot of persons who come, and slowly I make know the winery.
Okay.
So Taurasi is a little denomination, 70 villages who may do Taurasi. To be a Taurasi, you can have at least 85% of Aglianico. Mine, Taurasi and Taurasi Reserve are 100% of Aglianico.
Right.
Then I have blends who work really well. Terra del Varro, the labels you have here, with a blend with Merlot, is the first step in the world of Aglianico. So you have this Merlot give more smoothness to the wine, and the first step to understand Aglianico. And then you have Taurasi, 100% Aglianico. And the secret are less quantity per vines. Other wines, Aglianico has a bitter taste. So we keep low, but we have not a lot of necessity because we are on the hill. So you naturally has a low quantity. We are not in the flatlands, in the valley. We are on the east, on the slopes. So we have less quantity. So
how high are these vineyards? What's the elevation of these vineyards? Right.
So we have less quantity. It's important, otherwise you have bitterness.
Okay.
Then you have the moment of the harvest is really important. I taste the pulp, the skin, and the seed. When you taste the pulp, you taste the acidity in the grapes and the sugar. But it's not enough to understand if you may harvest. You have to taste the skin. So you put out the pulp and you squeeze the skin behind your tooth, and you understand, you crush the skin and you feel the tannin. And you have to understand that the tannin has to be really thin, the skin has to be smooth, the tannin has to be smooth, and the skin has to be aromatic for Aglianico. Sometimes it's the last week. So I say I tell you one thing, my father always is afraid, he wants to harvest quickly. So he called me, Milena, why are you not harvesting? And I say, the harvest, the skin are not made to, and he was like, it's really, our fight during the harvest is the moment of the harvest, because I'm really strong about the harvest of Taurasi and Taurasi Reserve. Last year, we harvest on the 7th of November.
Okay.
We go in the vineyard 3 times, one from the rosé and then 3 other times to harvest, to have a perfect maturity for our.
Losing you again, just real quickly.
Moment of the harvest.
Okay.
And aging. Aging, it's important because sometimes our Taurasi have to age. So it's not about only a good territory. Then you have to do a good wine who come on the market ready to be drink. So we are with 2012, 2030 for the Taurasi and Taurasi Reserve. Means that I have in bottle 2030, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 20 in now in harvest.
Right.
8 years I managed to follow a wine. So it's not about, okay, making the wine and you forgot that in a vat.
Right.
No, you have to have the best aging vat. So the best barrels, the best big barrels, little barrels. We have cement, we have amphora, and then some wine, the wine also aging in bottle. So we have to control the wine all this time. So for me, the production of Taurasi is heroic. It's a heroic production. It's not only a good territory. Is the purpose is the start is a good territory, but then you have to keep it. You have to have a perfect nose, no bad nose. You have to aging really well to come with my Ferrari on the market.
Now I have the 13, a glass of the 13, and tell us about that vintage. I know that was an excellent vintage.
Yeah, well balanced, good water at the right time during the year for the vine. So the vine stressed but not too much, because they have water also before in the spring, in the winter, in the spring, and then on September, really perfect weather for the vines, warm, a good warm year, good harvest without raining, harvest late with a good extraction, well balanced between acidity, structure, really fruity, really fruity.
Good. I enjoy the wine. I find it to be, I've had so many different producers, their example of Taurasi, and this to me is a more subdued style. It's not, extremely ripe, but it's got beautiful structure, and it's definitely made for aging. It's I mean, all Taurasi are, but this is not. It didn't seem when you made this wine you were worried about how many points you were going to get. You wanted to make the best balanced wine, the most harmonious, and it's got beautiful varietal character to it. But again, it's one of those things that come with time. In a few more years, it's going to be absolutely beautiful.
It has already 7 years, and after 7 years I come on the market. For me, it's already strong to challenge to manage all those wine in the winery, to take care of them, but we need time. But it's the beginning of his life. He will age like a person, at least 70 years. So it's the beginning of his life, and 10 years, from 10 years, he will not move too much.
Okay, that's right. But this was a great conversation. I appreciate it. Milena, it's sempre un piacere.
Grazie, piacere mio, grazie della vostra accoglienza a tutti.
Certamente. Sì. So hopefully we'll see you soon, and good luck with the rest of the harvest. Ciao Paolo, ciao John.
Ciao Paolo, grazie mille. John, grazie mille for your help in everything. And I saluto, a big hello to Michael and William.
Okay, great. Ciao Milena.
Ciao, take care. Be safe.
You too.